The air was thick with tension as the massive gates of the Grixon slave compound opened, its rusty hinges creaking like a dying beast. Beyond the gates, rows of alien women, their bodies battered and broken, stared out at the desert wasteland with hollow eyes. They had long lost hope of escape. For years, they had been imprisoned here, forced to toil under the cruel lash of the Grixon slavers, their pleas for freedom unanswered by the galaxy. Among them was Sarah, a tall, blue-skinned Tarian with eyes that once gleamed with fire but now reflected only despair. She glanced up at the sky, her gaze following the distant trail of a ship cutting through the heavens. Another transport, another batch of slaves, she thought bitterly. There was no one coming for her, then there was no one who would dare. Or so they believed. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shattered the monotony of their captivity. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the compound's watchtower crumbled in a plume of smoke and fire. Panic spread through the Grixon guards, their reptilian forms scrambling to find the source of the attack. The captives, stunned by the unexpected violence, could only watch as chaos erupted around them. "What's happening?" one of the alien women whispered in shock, her voice trembling. Sarah stood frowned, her heart pounding. She turned her head toward the main gate, where a lone figure now stood, silhouetted against the flames. At first, she thought it was another Grixon or perhaps a mercenary, but as the smoke cleared, she saw it a human. A single human soldier, clad in battered, dirt-covered combat armor, his face grim and determined. He moved with the precision of a seasoned warrior, his weapon glowing faintly in his hand as he advanced into the compound. "Impossible," Sarah whispered, her breath catching in her throat. "A human, here." The Grixon slavers charged at the lone soldier, their growls filling the air, but the human was quicker, more skilled than they could have ever imagined. With swift, calculated movements, he dispatched the slavers with a combination of blaster fire and close combat that left even the hardest among them dropping to the ground like stones. The alien women watched, dumbfounded, as this single human dismantled their captors' defenses. His actions like poetry in motion, he moved with the confidence of a warrior who had faced death many times and emerged victorious. Every strike, every shot was precise, efficient, and merciless. Sarah's heart raced. She had heard stories of humans brave, reckless, stubborn creatures who defied the odds, but she had never seen one in person, let alone one capable of this kind of devastation. The Grixons, known across the galaxy for their brutality, were being cut down like nothing more than vermin. Finally, as the last of the slavers fell, the human stood before the enslaved women. His armor bore the scars of battle, and his face was a mask of grim resolve. His piercing eyes scanned the group of prisoners, and for a moment, silence filled the air. The alien women, still too stunned to speak, stared at him in disbelief. The idea that just one human could take down an entire slaver compound seemed beyond reason. The soldier's gaze landed on Zara, who instinctively stepped forward. Though her legs felt weak, she opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. How could they? How could she begin to comprehend what had just happened? "I'm here to get you out," the soldier said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "The Grixons won't be hurting anyone anymore." Sarah blinked, her mind struggling to catch up. Why? Why would you do this?" she managed to ask, her voice hoarse from disuse. "Why would a human come here, risk his life for us?" The soldier looked at her for a long moment, then simply replied, "Because it's the right thing to do." His words were simple, but they cut through the disbelief like a blade. The right thing, in this galaxy, where cruelty and greed often overshadow morality, a lone human had come to save them, not for profit, not for glory, but because it was right. A murmur spread through the crowd of alien women as the weight of his actions sank in. Some began to cry softly, others whispered in their native tongues. They had been forgotten, abandoned by the galaxy at large, and yet this human had come for them. Sarah felt a swell of emotion rise in her chest. She had spent so long in chains, her will beaten down, her hope extinguished, but now, standing before this humantous soldier who had fought for them without hesitation, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. She stepped forward, closer to the soldier, her voice steady this time. "What's your name?" He paused, as if the question had caught him off guard. "Rook," he answered, "just Rook." "Thank you, Rook," Sarah said, her eyes locking onto his. "We owe you our lives." Rook shook his head. You don't owe me anything. Just stay close. We need to get out of here before reinforcements arrive. With that, he turned and began to lead the way out of the compound. The alien women followed, still dazed but with a newfound sense of purpose. They were free, and it was all because of this lone human soldier. As they moved through the compound's shuttered gates, Zayra glanced back one last time at the place that had been her prison for so long. Then she looked ahead, toward the horizon, where freedom awaited. And as she walked, she couldn't help but wonder, in a galaxy filled with species far more powerful than humans, how is it that one lone soldier human had been the one to save them all? The answer, she realized, didn't lie in strength or numbers. It lay in the heart, in the unyielding will of a species that refused to surrender even in the darkest of times. Humanity, she thought, was truly something remarkable.